Hello everyone, Blue Star Saber here with another One Piece chapter review, chapter 1187, The Root of the Problem. Let's see, I'm at my mum's, so I'm going to have to try and be not as loud as I usually am, otherwise I might end up waking her, but heck, that's what happens when you move about, but hey, life is. I want to try and do this chapter since, let's see, we got a break this week, so I'm able to give me some more time to cover the chapters because I want to get to the next chapter as soon as possible. But heck yeah. Anyway, this chapter basically follows up last week's chapter where basically we get the conclusion of Brooks' flashback, if you will, where we learn that Princess Shuri has these special eyes, making some Naruto dojutsu references, with at least the fandom at the very least has done. Ritzy, her biological father was a member of the Maymar family instead of the actual king. Brock apparently got a significant scar on his skull head with his jokes from Shuri. And Brooke ends up wanting to ask the Straw Hats that, given what he's witnessed now compared to what he didn't understand at the time, as he didn't know what devil fruits were the thing, he now thinks that the princess might have been controlled. So he asks his fellow Straw Hats to please help him save the princess. So, yeah. And while this is going on, you have Emu fighting Loki still, with Emu giving a bit of information, apparently that Emu once used the children of Elbaf against him in the past during the Void Century, and that is how he was able to defeat them back then. And now Luffy's arrived to give him quite the wallop. So, yeah, giving him a similar punch to St. Charles that he did to St. Charles, which for some think that has ruined Emu's aura, but we're about to see how that will take place with this next chapter. But before we got that, we've got, of course, the cover story, The Root of the Problem, in which we got a reader request, Riju scolding naughty swans and protecting the ugly ducking by Nibobo D420 Land, in which we see Sanji's sister Riju, if you will, holding a ugly ducking that basically looks like Sanji, who has gotten a bunch of bumps in his head, probably from his other siblings. Which we see the swans are basically his older brother, his identical twin brothers, some older, one younger, and the father being, of course, Judge, with them getting multiple bumps on their head, probably from Riju after picking up on the ugly ducking Sanji. Anyways, I do like this panel, this sort of cover story, because, well, it basically sums up the relationship with Sanji and his family. His brother and father hate him, but his sister loves him and wants to protect him from their basically horrible family, if you will. So we got that. I do think it's kind of fitting that they're also given the context of this chapter, which I'll get to in a bit. Let's see that this cover chapter focuses on Sanji, if you will. So yeah. Anyway, the chapter begins with Loki being shocked that Luffy has sent Ritzy Emu flying with a punch, and we see here that Emu, while he has gotten a sort of massive punch, if you will, he is still able to basically end up, fighting, if you will. So and using those devil hand things to do a sort of counterattack, if you will, as those flames will mark Loki and Luffy. And as we see here from this panel here, that the flames have gone both next to Luffy and Loki, as Loki will admit to Luffy, well, that was a good shot. It only happened because of all the damage he did to him first, with Luffy saying that you are really hurt and you should step back and rest. But Loki's saying, who do you think you're talking to, punk? Well, not really punk, but you get the idea. With, Luffy now seeing the flame, as well as Loki actually now saying little punk, which to this little flame thing. So they're both wondering what is going on, as Emu is once again coming flying back to them, with Luffy going like trying to hit the flame, but it's only actually hurting him. Let's see, well, he's going like it's hot, but it stings. But wondering what this black flame is. With Emu saying no, with Luffy saying now Emu looks scary up close, and Emu saying we're supposed to go to his chest where the sword was struck. Yeah, where's actually the flames are talking. See, not Emu. With Loki realizing the flames keep spreading as Emu uses a move called the Blade of Hatred Stigma, and Luffy Ritzy looks on as a giant flaming sword stabs Loki. Ritzy's effectively probably taking him out of the fight, if you will, as we then cut to like or seemingly cutting him out of the fight, as we then cut to, for at least for the time being, as we now cut to the as we then cut to the Straw Hats here, where we see them attempting to zap or destroy the ice, but it won't really even budge. With like Jimbo commenting how nothing works in it. If Usopp wondering if it's even ice. Frankie wondering if it's like a diamond, and Nami getting excited at the prospect of it being a diamond. Let's see, but with them thinking like if it's anything but ice, then surely she must be suffocating. With Brooks saying you may touch it, but it doesn't really feel cold, or at least that's what we imagine. With Nami shocked that he can't tell, and Frankie then also touching it, saying, "You've got a point, I can touch this, and I don't feel it." With Nami getting the fun reaction of, "That's because neither of you are non-humans, so yes, it's cold." With I think either Jinbei pointing out to everyone to look behind them, as we then see let's see, Loki hitting the ice, if you will, much to everyone's surprise, with them realizing what's going on. And then they all see that there's a hammer flying up in the sky. Everyone saying to like look out, and we see that Ragnar has now touched the hammer, which oops, with the hammer just touching it, with everyone being like thinking like seeing that Loki has gone down, wondering if he's been stabbed through the chest. Loki's wounded. Ragnar turns back to his normal squirrel form, and we then see the ice starting to melt, with Brookham realizing that it's saying that the ice has begun to melt as he's crying out for the princess's name, as she's still got her eyes closed, trapped within that now let's see melting ice. Luffy's holding onto a tree with the Emu attempting to do the same technique he did against Loki, but Luffy smartly throws the cape, seemingly using his future advanced future sight hockey, throwing the cape aside and letting it be stabbed by the stigma attack that Emu's doing, as Emu's looking on. And then we cut to basically, hold on, let me just get here. Let's see, we cut to Zoro and Sanji, where we're at the Reston Village Sea Cloud Port, where Zoro is, showing a map of where each of the parts is, where we see on the boat, let's see, with Summers asking what you're doing here, with Zoro saying, so you're one of the 3 demons, and Summers realizes it's a member of the Straw Hat crew, with him going like, you in the village earlier, I'm saying what you're going to do. You're going to get hurt if you mess with him. Retsu was Zoro saying, you're the ones who basically ruined their face between their friends. Retsu was Summers saying, so forget about it, saying it's just 10 or 20 kids, and his companion will be retrieving the brats in no time, saying, and there'll be no fuss at all, with Zoro saying, oh, you say that, but one of my companions just went towards the village, So it's saying that your guess is that, and they're saying that your friend ain't really going to come back from this. With Somers saying, asks, may I mind if I ask why? Because in a sort of mocking tone, if you will, ends up saying that, well, you're basically your friend will be dead. And at this point, Somers brings out his spiky club, laughing about that. This comment saying, do you have any idea how on top of our game we are right now? Preparing to fight, as we then cut to what appears to be Sanji's area, where we see the western village where the rain's pouring down with the rain god dream monster, if you will. With we see a bunch of the giants trying to basically fight it, with Sanji covering the facts, saying, problem one, there's a monster bigger than the giants taking the children away. With him saying that, unfortunately, due to his response, that he won't be saving the kids because, well, the second problem is that Itzy with their wailing mothers are an unbearable sight. Itzy, he cannot really do that since the monster is a woman, and he can't really kick him because Sanji's code of chivalry prevents him from ever fighting a woman, no matter how much we think he should. Itzy, despite the fact that even some of his crew's life might be in danger when he doesn't. But here now it's women and children. With Sanji adding with the note saying that the giant warriors refuse to give up on taking their children, as we see Ripley crying out in pain from all the damage, saying, don't take him away from me, Carlin, with Carlin crying out as mommy, saying he's apologized for being caught against. We see some of the other children also crying out. With Sanji saying problem free, he doesn't want to see the woman's tears, but he won't take part in that fight. Let's see, as he's saying that, let's see, as he goes to basically attack Killingham, saying that you're the root of the problem, saying the giants might lose sight of you, but you can't escape from him. With Killingham going like, you're tougher than you look, but with Sanji saying he's going to put a stop to this, with him going like, you fool, there's an entire world difference between toughness and mortality, and that's why you cannot really defeat him. But he does admit that even if it means getting rid of me, it means the power will vanquish, which he confirms that might be the case with his devil fruit. Anyway, Killingham goes into his hybrid form, if you will, where he's still in his hybrid form. So he ends up mocking Sanji, saying, see if you can try and eliminate the god of rain, telling his deity to take those brats away. As I think someone says, all very scary. But Sanji ends up telling Killingham he knows what he is weak against, with him taking an amusing thought on that, saying, haha, what an amusing thing to say, as we hold on, let me just as he ends up saying, so you're claiming that you can use the color of the supreme Haki, and tells him to go and kill him if you can. And this is where we get a bit of a Fretzy Sanji being sent flying a bit after Killingham's attack, if you will. We have Sanji thinking back to, like, how do you expect Gritzy Gaban's conversation with, like, the monster trio earlier, asking, so how can you support your captain? And Emperor of the Sea, when you can't use your Haki, with Sanji then asking him, what about himself? Does he have the Supreme King? With Gaban telling him, saying, you should have the potential for it. With Sanji going like, really? Retzi, but he says, however, in your case, for some reason, you possess a streak of macochistic instability, saying you must be a king too if you truly want to make Luffy one. With Sanji thinking a king, and complimenting on Gaban's words, if you will. But the chapter basically ends with this iconic panel here of, let's see if Gaban finishing his words if you truly want to make Luffy the king of the pirates. With with Luffy going into Gear 5 of like the title cards of King of the World, Saint Nerona Emu versus Emperor of the Sea, Monkey D. Luffy. With Emu saying, "Thou art Joe Boy," with Luffy shouting, "Quit calling me all these different names," saying he's Luffy, he's the man who will be king of the pirates, as Emu looks on as they're about to have, well, basically their serious brawl, if you will. So that sort of like ends the chapter. So but yeah, anyway, time for my overall thoughts, if you will. So first of all, I do like how Emu has basically despite being sent flying by Luffy, it's not like a one-hit done punch, which should be expected. And despite being punched like that, Ritzy, and despite being sent flying, he's ready to try and do his next attack, if you will. So I did like seeing that little aspect of it here, as I do like a Luffy and Loki's banter here as well, with Loki saying that Luffy only really was able to only hit Emu because of all the work he did, though he will admit it was a pretty good shot. So, which, to be fair, that might explain how Luffy was able to hit Emu as he was, because, well, Emu was probably distracted talking to Loki about how he defeated the Giants, but nevertheless, it's still a pretty impressive hit from Luffy. And of course, as we know, and usually when Luffy ends up fighting the bad guy, he at least gets one hit in first before the bad guy counterattacks, which we're now seeing. So, I'll do that. But I do like how Luffy and Loki also argue about whether or not Loki should rest and all that stuff. But it is interesting to now get to see some more of, well, basically Loki Emu's abilities, as we see him using the move Stigma, creating a giant Ritzy sort of Mihawk-like Ritzy giant blade, if you will, with flaming things stabbing Loki, seemingly taking him out of the fight. I know some people were disappointed that this fight was cut to bit, but frankly, I think it's fine because Oda did give us a full-on chapter focusing on Loki and Emu's fight at the very beginning, at the least. And the other bits were mostly, well, bits of clashes were mostly info dump on lore that happened during the 4th century. But nevertheless, Loki has been defeated now, so now it's Luffy's turn to fight. Though granted, given what we've seen, Loki is not going to probably just going to be out for now, but I do think he's going to get back up. Now it's Luffy's turn to fight Emu for a bit. And I don't think either Loki or Luffy can defeat Emu one-on-one, and the two at the very least will need to work together, if you will, if they want to try and do this. But yeah. So yeah, I do like seeing that. But one thing I also like is that we are seeing the Straw Hats, sort of the other Straw Hats, basically Frankie with like Nami, Usopp, and Jinbei trying to break the ice, but no avail, if you will. So while that is going on, let's see Nami, of course, doing the latest attack. They're trying to compliment. I do like how they're trying to debate whether or not this thing is actually ice or not, or some other substance like diamonds. And of course, you get Nami being with like loving treasure, going like, "Ooh, diamonds," but let's see. But also, Brooks do. Let's see, you have like this little funny gag of like whether or not Shuri is Ritzy suffocating or not, but Brock saying he can't really feel the cold, and neither can Frankie, but Nami pointing out that they're both non-humans. One's a skeleton, one's a cyborg. They've got Ritzy bones and metal hands. They can't really feel the cold, but Nami, of course, being your average human, will probably end up feeling it. So telling them that they're both like, you're the worst examples of doing this. So yeah. Anyway, one thing I will admit, I'm a bit surprised that, let's see, Ragnar ends up hitting the hammer so soon, and because like Emu sent them flying, and as a result, you've basically got the ice melting and all that stuff. I figured this would take a bit longer for this to happen. You might have just seen Straw Hats try a bit more of trying to break the ice a bit. But it seems like Oda is trying to speed up a bit with this arc. Now, Shuri's now free, but is she Princess Shuri, or will she have the Gunko persona? Because at the moment, it seems to be going well for Brook and his Straw Hat crew, if you will, or Straw Hat team, if you will. But for all we know, Gunko might still be being Shuri might still be possessed by the Gunko persona, and given the fact, especially since Imu is right here in person, he could probably end up putting more of his dominant influence on her, which might mean that Ritzy Gunko versus Straw Hats round 2 might happen, even if only for a brief bit. But I'm hoping at least somewhat happens so the Straw Hats can have a bit of a another match and do about better against Shuri this time, even if it's just one chapter at the very least. Allow Usopp and the others to have a bit of comeback, if you will. So I'm hoping at the very least with that. But I do kind of like how Ragnar, when he de-transforms his hammer, showing concern for Loki, if you will. But I do like how during Luffy's fight against Imu, he's using Future Sight Haki to sort of avoid the same attack that Imu used to stab Loki with, as I think it is nice that Oda remembers that Luffy does have this sort of Haki ability of Future Sight. So and does the smart thing of taking off his cloak, which the flames are attached on to avoid being stabbed, if you will. So I do like that. But yeah. Anyway, I will admit I do like seeing the sort of seeing sort of hold on, let me just there we go. I like seeing the sort of banter between Zoro and Summers, if you will, with Summers saying, "Oh, what are you doing here?" And you're sort of like, you're one of the demons. Like, we have no business with you. And it's like, you ruined my feast and all that stuff. So I'm liking the sort of back and forth these two are having about, let's see, who's who, what. Oh, you're Straw Hat. Oh, you're one of the demons. Oh, let's see, I have no business with you. I've got to deal with this kids. And so says, you ruined our feast and all that stuff. And saying, my companion is going to be bringing these brats here. And so says, well, my companion or my ally is basically going to put a stop to him and kill him and all that stuff. So I do actually like the sort of panel here with these two doing their sort of banter back and forth. And I do like how this chapter shows that despite the rivalry Sora has with Sanji, he is 100% confident enough that Sanji will be skilled enough to take down the enemy that is at the village that is trying to kidnap the children. So it's nice to see the sort of confidence Sora has, because despite the rivalry Sora and Sanji have, they do think that each other is dependable on taking out, let's see, a bad guy when it calls for it in order to help their crew and their friends, if you will. So it shows that let's see, despite the fact they can't stand each other, they do also trust each other. So yeah, it's just a nice reminder of that. And it also goes to show that even Zoro, Zoro among all people has faith in Sanji's abilities, which sometimes, diehard Zoro fans will just try to say, Sanji's weak, he's pathetic, he's not in Zoro's league and all that stuff. But no, these two are the wings of the Pirate King. And despite the fact that, Zoro probably thinks himself stronger than Sanji and Sanji vice versa, he will, Zoro will at least acknowledge that Sanji is strong enough to deal with any enemy just like he can. Even if he thinks that he is slightly strong, if you will. I do like how Summers is being very cocky with we've got to see I'm at my maximum potential with the Omen thing. But given the fact that this chapter confirms that both Zoro and Sanji are Conqueror's Haki users, the one difference is that these two will gain strength themselves in order to help Luffy become the Pirate King. But these, God Signs or followers and Imu have to rely on him to make them reach their maximum potential, if you will. So they need to be given a boost, while Sanji and Zoro will end up getting stronger to like help Luffy, if you will. So that shows you the sort of like the two different philosophies of like those who wish to serve a king and those who wish to fight alongside a king, if you will, in One Piece. So, but there's that. Now, granted, I will admit, while it's fun to now see that Zoro is now fighting opponent, I will admit, with like, given how Summers has gotten his butt beat so many times, both in flashback and in the current day. Let's see. This doesn't feel like this is going to be too much of a challenge for Zoro. Granted, he is being powered up, and to be fair, I still kind of feel like Summers would have been a perfect opponent for Sanji, given Summers, like, let's see, twisted ideology on love, and Sanji being like the the man to embrace love, if you will, particularly for women, if you will. I feel like these two would have been ideal opponents, but to be fair, some people did thought Summers was going to end up being Zoro's opponent just because he had a sword. So who knows? At the very least, let's see, Summers' fine abilities and plant-like fawn abilities, if you will, would make a sort of perfect prototype villain, I guess, for if, let's see, Zoro's going to end up fighting Green Bull, given the fact that he is the Green Admiral, if you will. And, well, he's basically the more advanced plant user, if you will, compared to, like, say, Summers, if you will. Anyway, and for the next chapter, and of course, I will admit, let's see, we've got this bit here with, like, the Rain Guard, which, let's see, as everyone basically expected, Sanji was not going to end up fighting the Rain Guard because since the Rain Guard's a woman, Sanji will not fight it. So it shows that even a made-up dream monster, that as long as it's a woman, Sanji's not going to lay a finger on it, even though he points out all the danger that the children and the parents are in, trying to, like, the Rain Guard trying to kidnap them, and the parents trying to fight for their lives, as you see with, like, let's see, Ripley and Colin, if you will, which I do like. I do like how you see the sort of desperation in her trying to rescue her son, with her son just crying for being captured again, as he's probably thinking in that warrior pride that he shouldn't have been kidnapped or caught, if you will, but still. But it's like, he's also probably worried that he's not going to see his mom again if they get taken away. But I do like how, but yeah, so Sanji isn't going to end up attacking a rain monster. So yeah, if it's a woman, so we do know that Sanji's chivalry will even go that far, which arguably with all the logic points he's made, it does make it, and the fact that he's still ignoring it because the kid's in danger, the women are screaming and the thing and all that stuff, and the giant. Let's see, he will just not break that chivalry code, which I know for some people is like, come on, Sanji, there's certain situations where I think you could break it just this once or something. But as we know from like his like on Whole Cake Island, which I will admit sometimes I forget myself, but the fact that his mentor Sepha said, never become a man I despise who would lay a finger on a woman, if you will, with violence. Sanji took that to heart and clearly decided that he would never do so. At least he disappoint his father figure, if you will. So arguably, I would think that Sanji, you probably should make a few exceptions for certain cases, but nope. Let's see. Sanji won't do it even for this rain monster, which arguably we've got the giants fighting it, but clearly they stand no chance. But I am hoping that maybe this is the fact that Sanji is not fighting the rain monster. This could lead to like another Straw Hat that should be in this area, aka Chopper, to fight the rain monster instead. And who knows, this could be a good chance that if Chopper does end up having the Forest Guard fruit, this could be a chance for Chopper to like awaken his powers and become the Forest Guard. And then we've got the Forest Guard versus the Rain Guard, which arguably not the actual real thing, but arguably would probably be enough for like Chopper's Rain Guard form without all the hockey and all that. Forest Guard form without all the hockey and stuff to take on this Dream Rain Guard, if you will. But who knows? That is just me Mitzi speculating. It could be, of course, Sanji's logic of actually deciding that, okay, the main problem is I need to take out Killingham. So it could be that the Rain Guard does disappear without anyone defeating it, and it's like Sanji just taking out Killingham. Though I will admit I would be disappointed because I would actually like to see Chopper get a fight at the very least, because Oda, you've been so long for Chopper to have a one-on-one fight where he actually wins, not since like Dozen, unless you're counting those like Croc from that one talking Croc from Whole Cake Island. But yeah, I mean, not only he hasn't been in fights before since, but it's like he hasn't had that one-on-one fight. So I wouldn't mind if like Chopper does it here, even if he's being backed by the Giants at least. So yeah, I think you should at least do something like that. But who knows? But I do like how Sanji is using the logic of like, okay, I just need to take you out because you are the source of this problem. If I defeat you, let's see, the dream monster will go away, which Killingham, of course, confirms, which to be expected, as we know that most devil fruits, when the user is defeated or dies, the effects of that devil fruit wear off, such as Sugar's Toy fruit or Doflamingo's Betsy string fruit with the bird cage, if you will. Betsy, and I think even Kaido's clouds during like Wano. So yeah, we do see it, of course. There are some exceptions, like Boa Hancock saying that if she was to be killed, let's see, the people that she turned to stone will remain forever stone, if you will. So, but let's see, at the very least, it seems Killingham is working in the way that would normally apply to devil fruits. Once the user is defeated, the abilities are going away. So I do like that. But I do like how Killingham's saying that's easy said and done, since, well, he's basically immortal and you're not, let's see, and your toughness won't be a match for him. That he's powered by Emu. But Sanji, of course, is that he never backs down, basically confirming that I do know the weakness, which gets Killingham, of course, intrigued enough to like want to land a hit on Sanji, saying, "Oh, do you have Carlos the Supreme King?" And for many Sanji fans, this is arguably such a peak chapter because we cut to like Sanji remember Gaban's flashback of him asking, does he have Conqueror's Haki? And we get a confirmation that yes, Sanji does have Conqueror's Haki, but due to his sort of malicious self-doubt, if you will, he seems to have a lot of self-doubt. Let me just get the text from like what the Viz has put, saying that with like, however, in your case, for some reason, you possess a streak of masochistic instability. So basically, Sanji's got a lot of insecure problems, so he cannot really see himself as a king right now, and he needs to see himself become a king, if you will. Let's see, if you want to make Luffy, of course, the pirate king, which arguably it's probably going to be a drama with like maybe his family, with maybe Sanji's perhaps own self-worth. I've seen some people talk about how Sanji's ready to sacrifice himself for the rest of the crew when need be, but perhaps that's earned a lot of his kindness, but arguably you should protect your crew, but arguably it seems like something about it may be holding him back, or might be some drama with his family he needs to overcome, though he did kind of do that in Wano. But nevertheless, Sanji has Conqueror's Haki, and he is confirmed to be one of the two wings of the Pirate King, if you will. And let's see. And basically, for those who doubted that he did, including me, were proven wrong, which I will admit I was a bit skeptical at first because it seemed like only Zoro really had the disposition, but it seems like Sanji also has it well. But of course, as Gaban said, he still needs to come over some trials. So yeah. So arguably for Sanji fans, this is probably one of the best chapters ever, as it confirms that Sanji is on equal footing with Zoro. And now both of them need to try and master Conqueror's Haki to defeat these Gods Knights, so that they can like end the fight as soon as possible and go to the next stage of their journey and see and arguably fight whoever they need to in the future, which could be like members of the Three Admirals. I could definitely see Sanji wanting to have a rematch against Kizaru, and I think Kizaru would be a quite fitting opponent for Sanji. So that would be it's an awesome fight to see, but we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, Sanji at the very least is likely to be Yonko level alongside Zoro by the end of this. So yeah, being the two wings that support Luffy, we just need to see what Oda's thinking about this magnetistic instability that Sanji needs to overcome from. I know some are hoping for the whole wonder thing, but I don't think it's going to be more of that. I think it's more of like Sanji Ritzy having more of his own self-worth and wanting to become a king of something. Now, arguably, it's not going to be like king of hell. I think some feel as he might be king of heaven because he's like a knight and protector. And I think it might be more of like he will try and overcome the Haki through that. But yeah. Sanji is now has the chance to become equal to like Zoro and to some extent Luffy because these are the wings of the Pirate King and they should be able and Monster Tree and they should be able to fight side by side. So yeah. Sanji Conqueror's Haki. It's now confirmed. Let's see. There are some hints that might have been. Heck, I think there's even some colored spread. I remember a colored spread page that had something that implied that Sanji could have Conqueror's Haki with, I think, with how it was described, I think some cookbook, but spelled with the way of like Conqueror's Haki, if you will. So we got that. And so yeah. So we're going to see Sanji fight some very big-time leaguers, not just probably the Guards Knight, but probably also maybe an Admiral and maybe probably the Settlement. Maybe now we have him able to fight one of the 5 Elders, which could either be Saint Summers or Jupiter, if you will, or Marcus Mars, as I think so is going to be fighting Nesjuro. I'm pretty certain that Topman Rokuri is going to end up fighting someone big, be it in the Revolutionaries or one of the other Straw Hat allies, I think, like, say, maybe Kid or Law, but who knows? We'll have to wait and see in that regards. But yeah. Wings of the Pirate King, they both have Conqueror's Haki. It's been confirmed. And, of course, the main highlight is seeing that... is like finally getting like a matchup that see for the last couple of 100 chapters, about nearly 200, I'd say at this point. We're finally getting that Emu versus Luffy Gear 5 fight with like Emu comparing Luffy to Joey Boy, but of course Luffy says the classic line, "I'm Monkey D. Luffy, the man who's going to be king of the pirates, doesn't really care about all these titles." That really fits in with his character. And he's ready to fight with Emu just looking on. So yeah, I will admit, Itzy. Now, I already know what happens in the next chapter, but I think basically everyone was hoping that Luffy, most people I think were hoping for that Luffy will have one of those moments where he fights the bad guy, gets defeated, and then ends up recovering and fights them down later down the line, which I can definitely see happening here. Because Emu is supposed to be the god, the evil god of the world. Joe Boy should be able to defeat him, which arguably, Luffy does have Gear 5, but it's clear that it's just not on Joe Boy's level yet, as we saw of the Conqueror's Haki from Egghead, if you will, given how that made Emu react the way he did. But yeah, but nevertheless, I'm expecting like a pretty good fight between Emu and Luffy, even if it doesn't last too long, as this might just be, Luffy will fight him and then be defeated. And then, of course, then you have to have like both Luffy and Loki team up together to take on Emu. But I do like how we've got these nice big text box of like a versus match. Like, I don't think Oda's ever done this before. So I think he's showing the significance of this fight here. As I do think, regardless of what happens, this fight will make Luffy grow. But who knows? So, yeah, overall, I'd say this chapter is a 9 out of 10. I think it's got some funny banter between Luffy and Loki. As like they're arguing about whether or not who should rest and how one was able to hit Emu and all that stuff. Let's see. Well, I admit the ice plot line, melting ice with Shuri, got ended a bit quicker than I would probably have hoped, but I'm hoping that the Straw Hats might get the chance to have a rematch against Gunko. I love the banter between Sorrow and Summers as they's just trying to one up each other and also hype up their companion or friend, if you will. As so I was quite confident that Sanji could take down Killingham, but I don't think he realizes about the rain goddess monster there. And I suppose one downside is Sanji, despite all the logic of what's happening to the kids and the mothers of the kids or parents in general or other guardians. Let's see, he's refusing to fight because it's the rain goddess is a woman, so he refuses to fight a woman even as a monster, even if they're just made up. But at the very least, I do like his logic at the very least that he is going to try and take down Killingham and confirming with Gabbana. He does have Conqueror's Haki. He just now needs to overcome what is ever holding him back of this instability, which arguably might be family issues. It might be something else, maybe like how he seems to be willing to sacrifice himself so quickly, if you will, for the sake of others, as we saw how he tried to offer his own life when Zoro's offering his against Kuma with the whole Usa shock transfer of pain thing. So, but nevertheless, let's see, Sanji needs to find out what king he wants to be. Now, there's been a few titles: King of Heaven, King of the Ladies, King of All Blue, but I do think more likely the Heaven one is the more likely one, since Soros is going to be the King of Hell. Sanji will be the King of Heaven. So, yeah. And also the fact that, well, we're now getting Luffy versus Emu, a fight that's been waited on a while. How's Emu going to react to like Luffy trying to say he's Monkey D. Luffy and not really Joy Boy? How well is Luffy going to do in the fight against him with Gear 5? As we know, he was able to land a hit on his base form, but I think Emu had his guard down, as Loki points out. So who knows? It will be interesting to see at the very least. But overall, I'd say a 9 out of 10 chapter and good setup with like the monster trio with their respective opponents. Let's see. Luffy Loki banter while Emu shows off more of his abilities, such as Stigma, and the Straw Hats seemingly accomplished their goal of freeing Shuri, at least for the moment. But yeah, overall good chapter. For those who end up listening to this stream, I hope you enjoyed what I had to say, and I'll see you next time when I review the next chapter, which I'm hoping I'll be able to have enough time to do on the weekend, as this week is a break for One Piece, so this week is a break in Shonen Jump, so at the very least, this break allows me to catch up with the chapters I need to review, so which is just one more, and then I can do some other stuff. But for now, I am Blue Star Saber signing off. Thank you for those who end up listening. I hope you enjoyed what I had to say, and goodbye for now.